So step right up. It is another round of Film School Dropout, where we take widely believed industry facts and we dunk on them. This week we're talking about the fact that the term greenlit doesn't actually mean that it's necessarily happening in Hollywood, and why films still die in pre-production. Because in Hollywood, greenlit is kind of short for we like it until we get bored or we get scared. And so, yay, congratulations if your film gets greenlit for funding, but that doesn't mean that the work stops there. Not just because production is ahead of you, but that you are going to have to continue to sell that film to people, including the people who greenlit it, for the rest of its existence. So what does greenlit actually mean? It's officially the go-ahead from a studio or a financier to move forward with development or production for a film. But greenlit is usually a conditional term. It could be subject to budgetary approvals, it could be subject to cast availability, it could be subject to union negotiations and confirmation of and receipt of tax incentives. And at any time in the modern age, changes in streaming algorithms or a new executive, and I like to joke that, the new executive's astrology chart tells us this is not a good film project anymore. Those things can all have an impact on whether or not your film ultimately gets made, even if you're this close to finishing it. So, leadership shakeups, new executives equal new mandates. Greenlit projects often get iced because they weren't yours to champion, especially, from the perspective of the executive. If it's not their film, if they didn't greenlight it and they're taking over, they have no emotional connection to it. So you have to, as a filmmaker, continue to make the business case for that film project, even if... Oh no, I just realized I was muted on some of these channels this whole time. Well, here we go. You will have to continue to make your business case. Then there's budget bloat, right? If a project gets greenlit for $20 million and the final numbers come in at $35 million, the studio can pull the plug, which just, means that you're going to go back to zero, and you either need to find a way to come up with the rest of that money, or you need to come up with a way to produce it for what it was originally quoted and then renegotiate. When a star drops out, that can be a pretty tragic thing. Films get greenlit because they have specific cast, but scheduling contract conflicts or cold feet for A-listers or B-listers can really have a bad impact on whether or not that film stays greenlit. Market shifts, they happen. If you are targeting young adults and you're coming off of the tail end of Mockingbird and Twilight, and the world is sick of young adult adaptations, it may be that you are a victim of that and you get cut. And then, financing could fall through at any time, especially for indies where financing in itself is near impossible. You move forward based on expected financing, but if you lose a grant or an equity investor, you're effectively out until you can fundraise again. And that's why we see a lot of films start production and then pause. They go into production hell. I'll give you 3 examples of super prominent films that were greenlit and then fell apart. One of them, Guillermo del Toro was making a film called At the Mountains of Madness. It was greenlit by Universal, and Tom Cruise was attached to it, but then was canceled because Del Toro refused to make it PG-13. Tim Burton was making Superman Lives with Nicolas Cage as Superman. Kevin Smith was writing. They spent $30 million on development, and then the studio pulled the plug due to creative differences and fears about how the budget was going to swell up. And then David Fincher's Rendezvous with Rama was technically greenlit more than once and never shot, and he still wants to make it, but I don't think we'll ever see it. So look, Greenlight isn't a guarantee in your career, and it's just like everything else in film. You kind of have to roll with the punches, and if you are dedicated to making that project, then you'll continue and you'll find a way to do it, and you'll find people that align with your interests. But it's not a guarantee. So always add flexibility to your plans. Always plan for a plan B if plan A drops out, specifically actors. Always try to come in well below what your projected budget is. Never hope that somebody is just going to extend the budget because they've already spent money on it. And to develop multiple projects in parallel, because Hollywood can cancel your baby, but at least you can have multiple children. I like to always have at least three pots on the stove at a time, be developing 3 projects simultaneously, and they're all in various states of pre-production, production, and post-production. And some move fast, some move slow, some jolt forward and then freeze. But, keep those things moving, because it can have a good impact, and it can save your sanity just as much as it can save your career.